Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. My name is Nick Marro with Occupy Fantasy. I'm here today to help you break down the NBA DFS main slate on both DraftKings and FanDuel. If you haven't already, please like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel. That helps us get more free content like this out to you on a regular basis. Also, if you're not a member of Occupy Fantasy, check out the links in the description below to become one today. You get access to the model you see here we'll be using throughout the video, as well as a single lineup builder, multi lineup builder, and a private Discord server full of seasoned DFS pros to help you improve your game. Not only do we have NBA, but MLB is getting started, which I'll be contributing to as well. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. And yeah, let's get into the slate here. You see, I already got Chris Dunn pulled up. Three gamer that locks at 3:30. Excuse me, three gamer. It's a tongue twister that locks at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. Most of these games don't mean anything. The shelf life of this video is going to be pretty much nothing. I'm hoping we get some views on here. Please like and subscribe. All the more reason to today. Really do appreciate it. This is going to be my personal last NBA regular season video. There are some games tomorrow. Just want to thank everyone for tuning in all season. And again, check out the Occupy Discord. Will be in there, and you will see me more on this YouTube channel throughout the MLB season as well. And if we do NBA videos in the playoffs, I imagine I'll likely be involved in those as well. But let's get into the slate. Only three games. Locks at 3:30 Eastern. I waited for the 11:30 Eastern injury report to get into it. Was hoping we'd have a little bit more news than we do. But yeah, only three games. We can make some assumptions. Shouldn't be all too difficult. So let's get right into the slate here. I also have the NBA standings pulled up. Most of these games don't mean anything, and that's just there to confirm as much. So yeah, first game on the slate, 3:30 Eastern. The Nuggets are at the Jazz. Nuggets are 6 point favorites on the road, 224.5 point game total here. So it's tough to really deduce anything from the spread just because both these teams are resting most of their players. Nuggets clinch the one seed in the West. The Jazz are out of the playoffs, so they really have nothing to play for here either. We'll start on the Denver side. Bruce Brown's actually listed as probable. Contavious Caldwell Pope is questionable. Aaron Gordon questionable. Reggie Jackson probable. Jokic, Murray, and Porter all questionable. So yeah, this is one of those tricky situations. I mean, obviously they've locked in the one seed. Do you want to give your players rest? They don't have to be in the playing tournament. Or do you worry about them getting a little rusty if they don't get some run here? So there's a decent chance Denver plays some of their starters. But even if they do, I probably wouldn't roster them just because there's a good chance they get pulled at half. The one player for Denver I trust right now is probably Bruce Brown. If they rule out all of the starters, then we could see some value open up. Excuse me, guys like Christian Braun would become very interesting. Wouldn't hate Reggie Jackson as the starting point guard, assuming he is going to get full run here. It's really tough to say that with any sort of confidence, though. Um, I could pull up the Nuggets depth chart. But yeah, Christian Brown would become a really interesting play. Zeke Naji, if he were to slide into the starting lineup. Let's see who else here. Just using ESPN. For now. But yeah, Zeke Naji would be interesting. If Jokic is out, we're going to get Thomas Bryant at center. Vlatko Kankar is always a decent play when he starts. Could see Ish Smith maybe starting at the two alongside Reggie Jackson. He's the better fantasy producer of those two. Um, but yeah, Christian Brown's really the one player I'm very interested in, and then Bruce Brown as well if he starts. Those are the two players, Brown and Brown, spelled differently. And then Zeke Naji if he does get the nod at either starting center or the four. I wouldn't mind him there either, playing alongside Thomas Bryant. But if we get Murray, Jokic, Porter, Gordon in, really gonna have no interest in Nuggets because what you're probably gonna end up with is the first half of the starters in the second half with those backups, and either way, it's gonna make it tough for them to hit value. So I was hoping we'd have this news and we could really talk through Denver, what I want to do here. But for now, I'm really not all that interested in anything. Guys like Christian Brown have been priced up, so they're not as appealing as they would be on another slate. Kudos to the sites for actually adjusting their prices a little bit here. But if all these guys are ruled out, check that starting lineup. We could see some value here. Over on the Utah side of things, they're totally out of the playoff picture. Really nothing to play for. Clarkson, Gay, Horton Tucker, Kessler, Markkinen, Olenek and Sexton are all out. So what does that leave us with? It leaves us with Chris Dunn. It leaves us with Oche Agbaji. Those are the two players I'm most interested in. And then Lucas Samanik in the front court looks pretty solid here as well. So actually three players I'm going to go ahead and call core plays on both sides. That's Dunn, Agbaji, and Samanik. I will say Agbaji is very much scoring dependent. I kind of need his shot to fall for him to consistently hit value. But at the same time, he's sub 5K on both sides. There's really not that many plays we could feel all that great about in any of these games, given the circumstances. So I'll go ahead and lock in those three. So again, that's Chris Dunn at point guard. He should get full run here, coming off a pretty nice game. Agbaji, talented scorer when he's given opportunities. And then Samanik, really not a player I'm ever that excited to play, but he's cheap and they're benching everyone else in the front court. So it makes some sense to get here. Just pulling up Luca real quick. I mean, he played 30 minutes last game, only had 17 fantasy points, but I think they're going to be even thinner tonight than they were in that spot. So don't mind him. But yeah, if we go to the depth chart, and usually this is not something I'd be doing on one of these videos, excuse me, going through team by team and all that. Um, but yeah, I think today it is pretty valuable. And I will keep this video quick. Again, slate locks at 3:30 Eastern. The shelf life on this thing is shorter than it already normally is. Um, but yeah, Johnny Juzang is going to be interesting here as well. Simon Fontecchio likely starting on the wing. Let's take a look at Juzang and what he's been doing lately. I know he had a few big games, but pretty inconsistent as far as I could see. Yeah, 15 minutes in here. His last time out. Not a player I'm really rushing to get to. Who was the other one I said? Simon Fontecchio. Yeah, Fontecchio probably does get the nod at the wing. He's a young player they actually like. I could see them wanting to get him some extended minutes. We do see those outlier games from him. He's had 30 fantasy points and starts before. But I don't think you can count on it here. So for me, Samanik, Agbaji, and Dunn are the Utah Jazz to play here. Excuse me, I'm gonna take a drink. Pretty early for me, not as far as the clock's concerned, but only woke up a little while ago. But definitely wanted to get this video out. Moving into the next game on the slate now, we have the Timberwolves at the Spurs. Timberwolves are 13.5 point favorites on the road. 233-point game total here in San Antonio. So the Timberwolves are actually one of the only teams on the slate with something to play for, and it's kind of arguable if they actually do or not. But if they win both their next games, they do have another game tomorrow. Then they could move up into either the 7 or the 8 of that play-in tournament. And if the Lakers or Pelicans, I think, drop to, I think if let's see here. Let me do some math. This is tough. So if Minnesota wins here, they're going to be 11 and a half games back going into tomorrow. And I think both the Lakers and Pelicans play. So if Minnesota wins and one of those teams loses, I guess there is a chance they could climb up in the standings and get a home game on top of what they would have had in that play-in tournament. So an extra home game in the play-in would certainly be nice. So you have to imagine they do want to be um, running up their starters here. We do see Carl Anthony Towns questionable regardless. I think he goes, but if he doesn't, that's going to be a boost to Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert. I will say Edwards is probably my favorite quote unquote pay up on the slate right now, just because it's really tough to trust anyone else. But if Towns is in, he looks good. 8,300 on both sides, totally reasonable price on him. Rudy, reasonable price on both sides, much better on FanDuel where he's 7,400. Anderson, Conley, both decent plays as well. Again, when you can find a team that still has something to play for in a slate like this, obviously, all those plays are going to become pretty appealing. I'm going to go ahead and add Gobert and Edwards. I can see adding Conley or Kyle Anderson as well. I just don't want to overdo it. I forgot to add the Jazz players on our DK bill. I'll do that first. Again, we got Dunn, Agbaji. Who was the other one? Samanik. We got Edwards. We got Gobert. So this is kind of how I'd be starting my builds today. I mean, it's going to be pretty chalky, I think. Um, Maybe for 100 more, you go with Cat instead of Gobert. I think personally I would. But at the same time, Anthony Towns is questionable. If they do rest any of their starters, it's probably him. And again, if he's out, that's going to be a boost to everyone else. So definitely keep an eye on that news. But it's really easy to pivot. They're priced only 100 apart. So if you could fit Towns and he's out, you could easily pivot to Gobert. Just make sure you have him in a center or utility spot because, um, yeah, Gobert does not have power forward eligibility. But yeah, I like the starters here for Minnesota. Like I said, Anderson, Conley, fine as well. Prefer Towns over Gobert over on DK, but it's very easy to pivot if Towns is ruled out. So definitely gonna have some pieces here. Again, one of the only teams with anything to play for. Would it shock me if they suddenly bench guys? No, but given that we have the injury report and we're not seeing that right now, I think we just have to assume most of these guys are going to be in. All right, so over on the Spurs side of things, they're certainly tanking. We got Bassie out, Birch out, Graham out, Johnson and Langford are questionable, McDermott out, Sochan out, Vassell is out as well. So Keldon Johnson listed as questionable is throwing me off a bit. I think if he's in, you can play him. Going to be tough to trust. He is pretty expensive. He's probably going to be the first guy they rest if things do get out of hand in this game. But at the same time, I mean, talented player. If Pop decides he wants to try to keep this game close, I think we could see decent run for Johnson here. Pretty risky though. I do like Trey Jones. He looks fine on both sides. Probably the safest Spur option. Zach Collins in the front court looks decent here as well. Just keep an eye on the starting lineup. I mean, if Branham starts, he should be somewhat appealing. I think Champagne. I don't know if he's still with the team. Um, Regardless, I'm interested in Jones, Collins, Johnson if he gets the nod. But you got to trust Pop, which is never fun to do. So I think the one player we can trust maybe from the Spurs is Trey Jones. Don't know that I want to pencil him in just yet because there is one more game on the board here. But yeah, keep it on that Spurs lineup. Keep an eye on the news there. Not anything we really have to rush to get to. They're all kind of priced up for so many guys being out. Much prefer the Minnesota side in that one. All right, so moving into the last game on the slate now, we got the Trailblazers at the Clippers. Clippers are 16-point favorites here. So the Clippers also have something to play for. If they lose, they could fall into the play-in tournament. So they really need to win this next game. I think it's their last game, but regardless of if they play tomorrow or not, today is a must-win, so they don't have to fall into that play-in tournament. I know there's been some chatter of teams not wanting that 5 seed because if you do land in the 5, you have to play the Suns in the first round in a 7-game series. But it's kind of tough to play those games as a coach or a team. I think it's more likely than not we just see the Clippers put the pedal to the floor here and hopefully secure that spot they're in. So no Marcus Morris, no Paul George. Otherwise, this team is pretty much healthy. We've seen recently Kawhi playing first half and then getting pulled. So I'm hesitant to use him as a pay up over guys like Edwards or Gobert, but at the same time, on a limited slate, he certainly has upside. He could hit value probably in a half almost against this Portland team with no one available. I'm also interested in Russ Westbrook, but he is priced up to 9K, so not as appealing there. But yeah, I think I'll go ahead. I'll add Kawhi over on FanDuel reluctantly. Hopefully, we get some coach speak from Ty Lue, whether or not they're going to let these guys run a full game. But in order for that to be the case, Portland's going to have to keep it close, and that could be difficult. Probably not going to click him quite yet over on DK around the similar price tag. You see that reflected in the ownership. It's just tougher to fit him over there if we are paying up for Edwards and either Gobert or Cat. I don't mind Zubac. It's not something I'd be rushing to get to. And then again, this is just a tricky situation. I think all the starters go here. We'll see Gordon, Powell probably in the starting lineup. But this game could very well blow out. 16 points is one of the wider spreads we've seen all season. So over on the Portland side of things, obviously nothing for them to play for anymore either. Drew Eubanks questionable. Grant, Keon Johnson out. Knox is probable. Dame is out. Little out. Nurkic out. Reddish questionable. Shady and Sharp is probable. That actually matters. Anthony Simmons is out. Matisse Thybulle's out. Trenton Watford is probable. And Justice Winslow is also probable. So Skylar Mays should get the start at point guard here. He's actually a decent fantasy producer we've seen at times. Wouldn't mind getting to him. Just taking a look. I guess he's shooting guard only over on FanDuel, so we'd have to move Edwards down. Or do I just have the wrong game selected? What's going on here? There he is. Oh, okay. He's priced up. That's why I'm not seeing him. So yeah, Skylar Mays, decent option here. Pretty high ceiling. If you want to go ahead and move Edwards over to small forward, you could play Mays at the shooting guard. Definitely one of my favorite options from Portland here, if that is the way you want to go. Again, 3 games, not a lot of options. Shaq Harrison, another guard. So actually, I take that back. Mays is probably going to start at the shooting guard. We probably see Harrison start at the point guard. So both of them look fine here. Jonathan Williams. Uh, the mind wants to say Jonathan when you talk about this guy. His name is indeed Jonathan, though. Not a player I'm super excited to get to. But again, they have no one available, so it makes some sense. If Drew Eubanks and Trenton Wofford are starting in the front court, they're fine. If you can afford Shady and Sharp, obviously obviously the best scorer on this team, probably the highest ceiling. If this game is going to stay close, you could probably expect a big game out of Shady on Sharp. But for now, I like Mays over on FanDuel. He's just way too cheap at 5,900. You see he's priced up to 7,300 over on DK. So let's do this. We'll go Mays over on FanDuel, and we'll go with Shaq Harrison over on DK. And that gives you a nice little build. Let me just say this, play light today. Wait for all the news if you can. These slates are pure chaos. I mean, there are still big prize pools. It looks like we could see some overlay. So there's certainly money to be made potentially, but at the same time, there's a reason most of the pros have ducked out of these slates. They're just too chaotic. We see guys getting rested at half, even if they're not superstars at times. I know yesterday I was recommending a bunch of Magic value, and then right before the game, the Magic decided they wanted to try to slow the Nets down and get them out of that sixth seed, and they started Franz Wagner, Markel Fultz out of nowhere started, so all that value we talked about was no longer relevant. So super obnoxious as far as content goes, but keep an eye on the model if you are a member. Obviously, this is going to update in real time throughout the day. The official NBA injury report as well should have news as it comes out, and yeah, good luck everyone. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. We'll be transitioning into the playoffs as well as MLB soon, so sign up to Occupy Fantasy today. Let's have some fun tonight, everyone. Take care. Let's make some money. Good luck.